Thank you, Speaker. I'm pleased to speak in strong support of the Crimes Legislation Amendment Hate Crimes Bill 2026. This bill responds to a disturbing pattern of targeted violence and humiliation, offending that is designed not only to harm a person in the moment, but to terrorise a whole community by turning an assault into a spectacle. I know in Penrith, across Western Sydney and indeed across the state, people want to feel safe in their neighbourhoods. They want to feel safe on public transport and when they meet someone new. They also expect that when someone is targeted because of who they are, because of their sexuality, gender identity, race or faith, the law will recognise that added harm and respond with clarity and strength, and that is what this bill does. Recent attacks that have come to public attention involved offenders using deception to lure LGBTQI+ victims, committing serious assaults and robberies, and then compounding the damage by recording and circulating these attacks online. The circulation is not incidental. It is part of the cruelty, part of the intimidation, and part of what spreads fear well beyond the immediate victim. The bill strengthens existing offences, introduces targeted new offences to meet contemporary offending methods, and improves the way sentencing courts can recognise and respond to hatred or prejudice that is demonstrated in connection with an offence. The reforms in this bill focus on 4 practical things: stopping the performance of violence for social media, criminalising the deceptive luring of victims for serious assaults and robberies, strengthening the offence of publicly threatening or inciting violence on protected grounds, and making it easier for courts to treat demonstrated hatred or prejudice as an aggravating factor at sentence. First, the bill expands the existing performance crime offence in Section 154K of the Crimes Act 1900 so that it covers not only motor theft and break and enter, but also serious assault and robbery. Where an offender commits one of these serious offences and then disseminates material to advertise their involvement, the law will treat that additional conduct as criminal in its own right. Second, the bill introduces a new procurement offence, proposed Section 54BA, which targets the calculated step of making a false or misleading representation to draw a person into a vulnerable situation with the intent to commit a serious assault or robbery against them. This is an important gap filler. It squarely addresses the luring behaviour that has featured in recent hate-motivated attacks. Third, the bill increases the maximum penalty for the existing Section 93Z offence of publicly threatening or inciting violence on the ground of a protected attribute, such as race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, intersex status, or HIV/AIDS status, from 3 years to 5 years imprisonment. And it increases the available fine amounts. Maximum penalties matter because they signal seriousness and give courts appropriate room to deal with the worst examples of this conduct. Fourth, the bill creates an aggravated form of the Section 93Z offence for cases where the public threatening or inciting conduct results in actual violence, where incitement crosses that line into real-world harm. The law should reflect the heightened gravity and the broader impact on community safety and cohesion. Finally, the bill amends the Crime Sentencing Procedure Act 1999 so that where an offender demonstrates or expresses hatred or prejudice at the time of the offence or immediately before or after the offence is taken to be motivated by hatred or prejudice for the purposes of the aggravating factor in Section 21A 2H. This is a practical reform. It helps ensure that clear, objective evidence of hatred or prejudice can be properly reflected in the sentencing. Members will be aware that Section 154K was introduced to deter a trend of offenders posting footage of their crimes online to gain status and notoriety. The same logic applies, arguably, with even greater force when the underlying offence is a serious assault or a robbery. Filming and distributing that material can re-victimise the person who has been attacked, invite copycat offending, and amplify hateful ideologies. Expanding Section 154K is a clear statement. Our community will not tolerate turning violence into entertainment. This bill introduces a new procurement offence which targets the deception used to lure victims. Proposed Section 54BA recognises a simple reality. In many of these matters, the offending begins before a punch is thrown or property is stolen. It begins with deception, messages, profiles, and arrangements designed to draw someone to a place of isolation or indeed vulnerability. The offence appropriately captures conduct that is intended to facilitate serious harm, including where the planned assault or robbery does not occur because the offender is interrupted. That is sensible, targeted criminal law. The bill also strengthens Section 93Z, where targets public acts that intentionally or recklessly threaten or incite violence against people on protected grounds. Lifting the maximum penalty to 5 years better reflects the seriousness of this conduct and aligns it more appropriately with comparable offences. Importantly, the bill also creates an aggravated offence where the incitement or threats result in actual violence. In those circumstances, the increased maximum penalty reflects the greater harm that has eventuated and the broader destabilising effect on community safety. On sentencing, the bill's deeming provision is carefully framed. It applies where the offender demonstrated or expressed hatred or prejudice at the time of the offence or immediately before or after it, creating a clear, objective link between the expression and the criminal conduct. It does not reach into unrelated conduct from other times, and it operates prospectively, applying only to offences committed after the commencement, which is an important fairness safeguard. In my electorate of Penrith, they are a proud, growing community. Families building a life in the West, students, tradies, small business owners, and people from many backgrounds who all call the Nepean area home. When people in my electorate talk about community safety, they talk about practical, everyday places and moments. Getting home safely after a late shift, changing trains at Penrith Station, walking through the town centre at night, meeting friends at the plaza, or taking the kids to weekend sport and local events. They talk about young people being able to catch the bus without being harassed, about women and LGBTQI plus people being able to go out without worrying that someone is trying to lure them into a situation where they will be harmed, and about community and faith groups being able to gather without threats being whipped up online. Those are not abstract concerns. They are the difference between a community that feels confident and connected and one that feels fearful and divided. This bill reinforces a basic promise. If you target someone with violence and you do it with hatred or prejudice, or you try to broadcast it online for status, the law will respond firmly. Speaker, this bill modernises our criminal law to meet contemporary offending. It strengthens accountability where harm is fuelled by prejudice, and it supports safer, more cohesive communities, not only in my electorate of Penrith, but right across New South Wales. It is for all these reasons, Speaker, that I commend the bill to the House.